What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, putting America first, second, and third. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
Welcome to our show today. It is Wednesday, November 18th, 2020, getting into the second half of the month here. We're still during the Leonids meteor shower, if you can get on out and catch a glimpse of that. And we have a lot to talk about today. We're going to do mostly news for the first hour. Then at some point, we'll open up the phone lines so you can call in with your comments, questions, and observations, opinions, and so forth and so on. No, I'm not muted. Okay. Okay, we seem to be having, okay, so we're okay. All right. Welcome to live radio, people. This kind of thing. New computer, no one. Okay, so are we good? All right. Testing, 1, 2, 3. This is NBC, the National Broadcasting Castration. All right, we're back on the air. So... Anyway, getting into the news here. It's just so crazy. The craziness of the outside world is now intruding into our private lives here. Getting right on into it, more and more information surfacing about the fight for the White House, more instances of election fraud surfacing. We're seeing a concerted and coordinated effort literally by the entire government to thwart this idea of a recount and an audit. We're seeing all of these judges who are getting in the way, and they're throwing out cases, and they're basically ruling repeatedly in favor of Biden. And it's just a reminder that, you know, judges are supposed to be above corruption, but they certainly are not. So Dick Morris was on Newsmax TV, and he's out there wagging his finger at Dominion voting systems and saying that, you know, something is obviously amiss, and yes, it is, because of all the election result irregularities being reported in the key battleground states, including suspiciously large turnouts and margins for Joe Biden, where polling was not showing such strength. And as a side note, I linked a video to the front page of whatreallyhappened.com from John Oliver tonight, where just before the election, he was warning about these election machines and how wide open to fraud they are. So, you know, even the liberal media was out there sounding the warning, and people should be paying attention to this thing, because we actually do not know the result of this last election. We don't know the numbers from any state, not just the battleground states, but any state. You know, the fraud was just so pervasive. All right, so we did this story before, but it's worth a flashback. This is coming out of Natural News, and it talks about Eric Coomer, who's the current vice president of U.S. engineering at Dominion Voting Systems. He self-identifies as an Antifa member. He's a rabid anti-Trumper, and he bragged on social media about how he was going to rig the voting machines to prevent Donald Trump from winning re-election. And so in an interview with Michelle Malkin, Joe Altman, founder of Faith Education Commerce United, revealed how he secretly infiltrated a local Antifa chapter and overheard these discussions involving Eric from Dominion and his role in steering the election. And apparently, Eric just said right on out, don't worry about the election. Trump's not going to win. I made blanking sure of that. So again, this idea of reassuring the American people that the election was fair and honest, no, it absolutely wasn't. And we don't know what the results were. We can't rely on any of the results from any of the states. Okay. Anyway, Sidney Powell is out there saying that along with the other evidence that they have against Dominion voting systems, they have found evidence that the Dominion voting systems were used to basically propel Hillary Clinton past Bernie Sanders in the California primary back in 2016. And of course, if Bernie Sanders had taken California in the primaries, he would have been the nominee. So the cheating has definitely been going on for a long time. It's cheating on behalf of the Democrats, and it's just really, getting ugly. Over in Arizona, Representative Paul Gosar is questioning the apparent contradiction in the election results of Republicans gaining at least 7 seats in the House of Representatives, appearing to retain control of the Senate, and Donald Trump receiving 13 million more votes than he did in 2016, and yet somehow losing to Joe Biden. And again, it's very, very suspicious. And apparently, Gosar told Newsmax TV Tuesday that Arizona's tally for president showed Biden leading by about 10,000 votes, which he questioned considering the use of the disputed Dominion Voting Systems Corporation software to count ballots in Maricopa County, which contains more than half the state's population. All right, now then, Wayne County canvassers have certified the election results after an initial deadlock. Originally, the canvassers were deadlocked 2 votes to 2 votes along party lines, and the issue was that the tallies of the actual votes that were submitted didn't line up with the number of voters who signed those logbooks. When you go to vote, they make you sign your name, you have a signature, then you get a ballot. Those did not line up, which is clearly an indication that something is wrong. There should be a recount and a re-audit. But apparently, Wayne County Democrats literally threatened and doxed the Republican canvassers and threatened them until they caved in to certify the Wayne County vote. I mean, this is pure thuggism there. And we know they're threatening the lawyers who are supporting Donald Trump. They're probably going to be threatening judges. That may explain why the courts are so unfriendly to the lawsuits Trump is bringing. They've gone too far to back off now. And I think before this is over, we're going to see some wet work out there. Okay, yet another memory card with 2,755 votes were found during the Georgia election audit, decreasing the Biden lead. Okay, and that raises the question, how many more missing memory cards are there out there? Because again, this underscores the system does not work. It is not accurate. It is, to be most generous, riddled with problems, let alone the issue of outright fraud. Now, over in Nevada, the Republican Party has announced a new election contest to throw out fraud and ensure election integrity after finding evidence that 15,000 people who voted in Nevada also voted in another state. So, and again, we may see that happen in Georgia for the upcoming Senate runoffs. And we've seen the Democrats openly encouraging people, Democrats, obviously, to move to Georgia, register to vote, vote in the Senate runoffs, and then, you can go on back home. And again, it's cheating, and they're not even trying to hide the cheating here. Now, Chris Krebs, who ran the cyber arm of the Department of Homeland Security, that this whole issue of election fraud was turned over to by Trump when the states would not cooperate with his Election Integrity Commission, has been fired by Donald Trump over highly inaccurate statements regarding election fraud. And apparently, Krebs came out and said that the elections were on the up and up, which we know they weren't, and Trump has fired him. And I imagine it's going to be the first of quite a few firings that we're going to see over the next 2 months here. Pennsylvania's Supreme Court has overturned an order requiring that election observers be allowed within 6 feet of ballot counting operations. And Justice Deborah Todd basically said, critically, we find the board's regulations were reasonable, that the observers have to be allowed inside the building, but they do not have to be allowed near the actual counting tables because of COVID-19, which is completely ridiculous. If you can't watch the ballots being counted, then you're not really observing, are you? The Trump campaign is filing for a recount in Wisconsin. And this will cost the Trump campaign nearly $8 million. Trump supposedly lost by just over 20,000 votes, the closest margin out of the three Midwestern blue wall states, which flipped back after Trump won them in 2016. So Trump is paying for the recount. It's going to cost him a lot of money. And again, it's just another roadblock they're trying to throw in the way of actually any kind of efforts to validate this election. I mean, look how hard they're fighting. They're making it obvious something was wrong with this election by how hard they're fighting to prevent any kind of an examination of what happened. Now, here's an interesting story. This is from AmericanThinker.com. We were talking the other day, pardon me, about how observers had seen, watching from home, had seen CNN suddenly flip a bunch of votes, 16,000 from Trump to Biden, and it was captured, and the video's gone viral all over the internet. Well, apparently there's been another example of that. Somebody living in Switzerland was watching the Fox election map, and in a split second between, basically 3 a.m. U.S. Central Time, the Wisconsin icon went from light red Trump to light blue Biden. And the probability meter, which had been very accurate in 2016, went from 77% Trump likelihood to over 88% of Biden. And he said, probably, most people didn't watch it happen because it was 3 o'clock in the morning, but they were watching from Switzerland. And I remember one of the callers from yesterday was saying that some of these vote riggers working in Germany, for example, weren't taking into account the time zone change when they were doing this vote flipping. But it's been caught twice now, and actually was on the corporate media. They weren't paying attention to what's going on. All right, Russ Ramsland of the Allied Security Operations Group was on Lou Dobbs last night discussing the Michigan election and basically said the vote was fraudulent, no question. He has proof the election was stolen. And his proof basically consists of the fact the current machines used in Michigan are not capable of counting the mass vote dumps that appeared for Biden in the reported time period. In other words, more votes showed up for Biden in a short period of time than the machines could have actually counted in real life. So, again, a little bit of sloppiness there. Apparently, there's another article here. A group of IT patriots analyzed a data set of election vote data, and they found millions of votes in the election that were either lost or shifted from Trump to Biden. And basically, they discovered an interesting mathematical anomaly. Once Biden gained the lead from his massive vote dumps, the remainder of the votes all possessed the same Biden vote to Trump vote ratio, which is absolutely impossible. That's not going to happen in a real, honest election. It's statistically impossible. All right, so right now, with the courts obviously against him and against the American people, Trump's only real road to victory is to get into the Supreme Court and have the election declared invalid, which will throw it into the House of Representatives. And I think ultimately that is what they're going to do. And the good news is that, first of all, Americans are waking up to the fact that our elections are rigged, that they are no longer in control of this government. It's just an oligarchy that goes through the theater of an election every 2 years, actually, to say, hey, this is what you voted for. Give us more of your money and your children. We're going to war because this is what you voted for. And I'd like to see a Trump second term, not because he did a good job in his first term, but because what Biden is already talking about is going to be very, very bad for the economy and the country. They're going to go hard left. He's got the squad is already putting pressure on him to go hard left. And, I think it's going to wind up in the House of Representatives. Now, the bad news is if the House of Representatives hands a second term to Donald Trump, we're going to see the liberal screamers, criers, the butterflies go absolutely ballistic. And the rioting and violence is going to be a lot worse than if Trump had been declared the winner on election night. So it's going to get ugly no matter how this thing works. And yeah, again, they're already out there. They were out there harassing the canvassers, the canvass board in Wayne County. They're doxing the lawyers. They're harassing lawyers. They're probably going to be harassing judges if they're not already. Again, it's a thugocracy. All right, Lindsey Graham, who's the head of the Senate Judiciary Committee, points out Donald Trump is still the president and will be at least until the end of January, and that Joe Biden is not officially the president-elect the way the corporate media try and present him until Trump either concedes or the Electoral College meets. And he says we're going to have to go through all the court cases, and the states are going to have to certify their results. And again, as we saw in Wayne County, the people certifying the results are literally being put in fear for their lives and safety by the thugocracy here. And Trump is not going to concede. Remember, a few days ago, we were talking about how Trump came on out and said Biden won the election because the election was rigged, and the corporate media seized on just the first half of that. Biden won the election, and they just put it all over the place saying Trump is ready to concede. It's all over. Biden is president. They are trying so hard to sell you this. And they're destroying their own credibility in the process, which is why they're in a panic that after this is all over, if they don't destroy the independent media, they're going to lose much of their audience. Apparently, MSNBC now has higher ratings than Fox News. All right. The 2020 election is getting worse for the House Democrats. The much promised blue wave never happened. They lost a lot of seats, and they got beat badly. In fact, the Republicans picked up seats in the House. They're still saying the control of the Senate is up for grabs, but the last time I checked, the GOP had won 50 of the 100 seats. So we'll see what's going to happen over there. I don't know. Are there more than 100 seats in the Senate? Anyway, over in Russia, Vladimir Putin is still not congratulating Biden. And they are, in fact, taking a very critical tone regarding the state of our election, as well they should, saying that the U.S. election has nothing to do with democracy. It's a puppet show being put on by the Democrats, the deep state, the billionaires, and the corporate media to convince you that what is about to happen to this country is something that you wanted. That's the big scam at the end of it all, that no matter what they do to you, take more of your money, keep you locked in your homes, keep you wearing masks, they're going to come back and say, well, this is what you voted for. Why are you complaining? Apparently, Rebel News had one of their reporters escorted from the Dominion voting office in Toronto after discovering that they shared an office floor with a Soros-linked group. This happened at 215 Spadina Avenue in Toronto, and he visited the reporter, Kian Bexte, visited the Dominion voting building located in Toronto in an effort to get some answers. And basically, he found it shares an office floor with an organization called Tides, which recently changed its name to Make Way, and they are part of the Soros network of organizations trying to bring about the New World Order. Now, Biden is filling up his transition team, and to nobody's surprise, everybody who did him favors on this campaign are getting some goodies. And apparently, people with close ties to Facebook and CEO Mark Zuckerberg have already become inside players in the Biden transition team. So for all the talk about, getting them under control and everything, it looks like the Biden administration is going to be very, very good friends with corporate social media. We got to take a break for commercials, and we'll be back with more news after these few words. Welcome back to our show here. And again, a friendly reminder that Republic Broadcasting Network is in the middle of a perpetual fundraiser. If you look at those who are opposed to us, they have millions and millions of dollars. And I think for the small budget that we operate under, we're doing pretty good, but we could always use a little more help. And remember, there's no such thing as too small a donation. I've actually gotten an email from people saying, well, you know, I'd like to donate, but all I can spare is $10. And my reply, that's $10 is fine here. If everybody listening to this broadcast sent in $10 to Republic Broadcasting, what an impact that would have. So once again, the postal address to send a check, money order, or if you prefer anonymity cash is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. The phone number where you can make a credit or debit card donation is 800-724-2719, extension 3. The network thanks you. I thank you, actually. You know, you've all been, I live in Santa Claus. I'll tell them, Santa Claus, you've all been good little boys and girls this year. All right. So anyway, getting on back to the politics and the crime of the century, the stolen 2020 election here. Another whistleblower has come forward to basically say that Facebook, Google, and Twitter are coordinating their censorship in terms of what content to block. In other words, if it's blocked on one, it's blocked on all. And apparently this was revealed during yesterday's hearings before the Judicial Committee, alleging that tech companies work together in deciding what content you, the American people, should be protected from. So Senator Josh Hawley basically pushed Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg on this newly revealed whistleblower complaint, basically saying Facebook coordinates with Twitter and Google to make certain content moderation decisions. All right, so they're all in cahoots together. Now, one of the things we did get out of yesterday's hearing was Twitter's CEO Jack Dorsey admitting that Twitter was wrong to censor the New York Post story about Hunter Biden and his laptop just days before the 2020 presidential election, saying that Twitter corrected the situation within 24 hours. But I mean, that was a very critical time and the damage has already been done. But Lindsey Graham basically came on out and said, that to me seems like you're the ultimate editor. And the editorial decision by the New York Post to run the story was overridden by Twitter and Facebook in different fashions to prevent its dissemination. Now, if that's not making an editorial decision, I don't know what would be. And of course, where Lindsey Graham is going with this is the idea that Twitter and Facebook and YouTube and the rest of them are acting as publishers, and therefore Section 230 of the Communications Act needs to be revised, if not repealed, saying that Twitter and Google and YouTube and Facebook can be sued for the same bad practices that one could, for example, sue the Washington Compost or the New York Slimes. And it really does need to happen. Unfortunately, as we saw in the previous story, Joe Biden is already cozying up to corporate media because they definitely were working on his behalf during this entire campaign, and nobody can really deny that at all. Getting into other news here, apparently down in Phoenix, there have been gang charges brought against police protesters, and apparently community organizations and local groups and faith leaders held a press conference to denounce the Maricopa County Attorney's Office regarding these prosecutions against protesters. And specifically, the group called for the attorney's office to drop a set of street gang charges against the protesters. Now, as I recall, this protest turned violent. And, you ever think about the liberal mindset, just how weird they get, where you can go to jail for not wearing a mask out in public, but if you're out there rioting and burning down buildings, nothing happens to you. Or take the case of Oregon, where now cocaine and meth and heroin are legal, but plastic straws are still banned. I mean, that's the kind of fairy tale world we're going to be living in for the next 4 years if Biden succeeds in stealing the White House, which unfortunately it's beginning to look like he'll succeed. A little bit of bah humbug news here. Apparently, in the process of bringing down a very nice tree to Rockefeller Center, because they have a big Christmas tree every year. It's a tourist attraction and everything. And apparently, in the effort of attempting to erect it in Rockefeller Center, New York City workers mostly destroyed the tree. And looking at photos of it, there's no way they're going to put that back together. It may be another way they're going to try and cancel Christmas. But, if you really think about it, the government doesn't really have the authority to cancel Christmas or Thanksgiving or Easter or any of that. Anyway, we're going to take another break for commercials, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to the show here, and we're starting to talk about COVID-19 and how ridiculous some of this stuff here is. The mayor of Chicago is urging people to stay home and avoid large crowds. And the reason this is so ugly is apparently this proclamation was issued 1 week after she participated in a large rally celebrating the election of Joe Biden. And apparently out in California, Governor Newsom is in a little bit of hot water after imposing more stringent lockdowns on California and then being photographed or videoed at a posh little restaurant with a large number of people. So it's another classic case of do as we say, not as we do. Over in Pennsylvania, they're announcing new COVID rules, including, I kid you not, wearing a mask in your home. And this, first of all, it's not enforceable. What are they going to do? Peek through the window? Have your little Alexa, constantly peeking to make sure you're wearing your mask? In addition, starting end of this week, anyone who enters Pennsylvania must be tested at least 72 hours before arrival. And if they cannot or do not get a test, they must quarantine for 14 days. The order does not apply to people who commute to neighboring states for work or health care. And they're saying this will be largely self-enforced, which means as far as masks in the home are concerned, it's not going to be enforced at all here. The CDC is out there again in Grinch mode, telling Americans not to sing, not to listen to loud music, or drink alcohol in order to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Now, somebody explain to me how listening to loud music is going to somehow increase the chances of you coming down with COVID-19. And as far as telling Americans not to sing, I guess the church choirs are all going to have to learn sign language. All righty. The British government is refusing to rule out a mandatory vaccine program. They have already ordered 5 million doses from Moderna. And apparently on Monday, Health Secretary Matt Hancock said that at present, the government is not proposing mandatory vaccinations, but they cannot rule them out. Okay, over in Germany, there's been a huge riot. Riot police fired water cannons at unmasked protesters as thousands gather in Berlin for demonstrations against Angela Merkel's lockdown measures. It's just really ugly out there. And again, another classic case of do as we say, don't do as we do. Despite the nationwide surge in COVID-19 cases and despite a statewide travel advisory, a group of California lawmakers are flying to Maui in Hawaii for a 4-day conference this week. And the policy conference is hosted by the Independent Voter Project based in San Diego. It has fewer people attending this year, but according to Politico, about 100 lawmakers and lobbyists are still made the trip to Maui. I remember when we lived on Oahu, all these various political events were taking place in the Hawaii Convention Center in Honolulu. So it's a nice way to get a Hawaii vacation on the backs of the taxpayers. Now, Here's an interesting little story coming out of CNBC, no less. And apparently there's been a research study done at Cardiff University. They're still waiting for peer review and publication, but the preliminary results basically say that commonly used mouthwashes will kill the coronavirus with just 30 seconds of exposure. And they're saying that just using these mouthwashes is going to kill the coronavirus in your saliva. So there, you've got a nice little treatment for coronavirus down there at your local CVS pharmacy there. All right, getting to the international news here. Joe Biden has made a big deal about preaching unity in the wake of this election fiasco, which is certainly not what they were preaching when Trump beat Hillary Clinton in 2016. But he's out there saying unity, 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 and being his normal hypocritical self here. But the only way he's going to build unity is if the American people think there's a new common enemy. And apparently this is the reason we're seeing an escalation of anti-China hostility and rhetoric, because that seems to be the only place where both Republicans and Democrats are coming together. Now, there is no doubt the United States is going through one of the most difficult periods in its history, and we don't even know if the United States is going to survive this. I've been saying for a long time, I expect a Soviet Union-style collapse, and we may be in the middle of it right now. Anyway, Beijing is sending Joe Biden a warning, and Biden is promising to repair relations with Americans' allies. He's out there saying America first has made America alone. Actually, no, it's bombing other people's countries that have and sanctioning the rest that tend to make America alone. But apparently, during a phone call with Japanese Prime Minister Yoshida Suga of Japan, apparently Biden said Article 5 of the U.S.-Japan Mutual Security Treaty covers the Senkaku Islands in the East China Sea. And of course, China claims that as their own. So they're sending a warning, keep out. And in a show of force, possibly a direct, blunt warning, U.S. B-1B Lancer bombers entered Chinese air defense zone while China mounted a massive naval drill. And apparently aviation tracker aircraft spots reported the two B-1B Lancers left Andersen Air Force Base on Guam Tuesday morning and entered China's air defense zone over the East China Sea after refueling in flight for the mission. Now, the B-1B carries the biggest payload of any U.S. bomber. It's even larger than the venerable B-52. And it is a departure from the normal incursions by fighter jets and spy planes that the U.S. has been sending over China in past weeks. And so this is definitely a serious escalation and a major rattling of the sabers. As we reported earlier, Donald Trump is attempting to keep some of his promises to the voters by pulling troops out of both Afghanistan and Iraq. And already there are repercussions. The head of NATO is already saying that NATO will pay a heavy price if they leave Afghanistan too early. I don't know. The price of that oil pipeline will probably go up, and who knows, maybe the price of opium will go up here. But apparently NATO does not want America out of Afghanistan. And there's somebody who does not want the United States out of Iraq, because less than an hour after Trump announced a troop drawdown in Iraq, a hail of rockets fell near the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad. Reports say that at least 5 rockets were fired on the green zone and 4 struck near the American compound. Looks like somebody has lousy aim, or they were simply firing the missiles so that somebody could go to Trump and say, you can't pull the troops out there shooting at us. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink, say no more. Little bit of good news. The Saudis are apparently tired of the war in Yemen. It's certainty the people of Yemen are. And the Saudis are offering Yemen a ceasefire if the Houthis will agree to a buffer zone at the Yemen-Saudi border. Now, they've been fighting along this border for years, and it's not surprising the Saudis are getting tired of this. And they need to hurry because there are reports that Donald Trump is planning to declare the Houthis as terrorists for nominally having ties with Iran. And of course, once they do so, that would basically prevent further peace talks going forward. Anyway, Saudi activists told British MPs on Tuesday that political prisoners in Saudi Arabia are basically being treated in brutal conditions of detention, including rape, torture, and murder. And apparently, former Crown Prince Mohammed bin Nayef and Prince Ahmed bin Abdulaziz, the activists detailed basically the conditions of these two former princes, detailed a litany of abuses carried out against detainees with virtually no oversight or transparency. One panelist said they'd received reports of detainees being sodomized to death in prisons, which sounds like a joke from the old Fireside theory, you know, death by Chi-Chi. Anyway, Aliyah al-Hathlal, sister of imprisoned women's rights activist Lujan al-Hathlal, said she and her family have had no updates on the sister's health condition since she began a hunger strike on the 28th of October. And of course, this nation that treats its people like this, they're our friends. All right, Turkey's parliament has now approved a motion, they did this yesterday, to allow Turkish soldiers to be deployed as peacekeepers to monitor the Nagorno-Karabakh ceasefire. And the mandate grants President Erdogan permission to deploy soldiers for up to 1 year to a joint Turkish-Russian monitoring center in Azerbaijan. See what comes out of that. Hungary is continuing to insist they will veto the European Union budget over the rule of law issue. And basically, the EU is saying this is a political and ideological weapon designed to blackmail and punish countries that reject immigration. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban and Poland are currently using their vetoes to stop a 1.8 trillion euro, that's about 2 trillion US dollars, EU budget and coronavirus recovery package from taking effect. They will continue to do so as long as other EU nations maintain their commitment to including the rule of law mechanism in the budget. So we have 2 more nations in the EU that wish they were not in the EU. Getting on down to the military, the Pentagon is now saying they will not be able to have a successful audit until at least 2027. Boy, they've got so much money. And you remember the day before 9/11 when Donald Rumsfeld got up there at the Pentagon and admitted the Pentagon had lost $3 trillion with a T dollars, and it should have been the scandal of the year, but you know, just lucky for Rumsfeld and the Pentagon, the very next day 9/11 happened and the corporate media dropped the story here. Well, apparently the Pentagon attempted and failed their first audit back in 2018. Officials said a failure was a foregone conclusion, and that they managed to finish the failure was in itself an accomplishment. That sounds like mill speak to me. This year's failure cost $203 million. They're insisting they managed to save $700 million, though COVID-19 complicated the matter substantially. Basically, what's going on, okay, we seem to be having more technical issues again. And let's see. Okay, yes, we're still on RBN. Apparently, something else is going on. Maybe we're being hacked, you know, by the Democrats. Who knows? So, I mean, the Pentagon has got a lot of money, and they're doing a lot of things they don't want you to know about, which, frankly, I can sort of understand. We don't want the enemies knowing about it. Apparently, about a week ago, somebody living near Edwards Air Force Base got a photograph of an aircraft that has the planoform of the B-2 bomber, but it was all white. And they think it may be the successor to the SR-71, because they can steer that wherever they want, whenever they want, as opposed to the satellites, which sort of follow these predictable orbits. Getting on to the economic news here, Wall Street is now admitting that any significant civil unrest may actually crash the stock market. And apparently there was a statement in the latest Bank of America Fund Manager survey that it's very, very bullish. But they said it's time to turn bearish for the near term and sell the vaccine because Wall Street has gone full bull. In other words, they're basically admitting the market is overvalued and it wouldn't take much to bring it down here. A little bit of maybe good news for Boeing. The FAA has cleared the Boeing 737 to fly again commercially. And, the plane has been grounded since March 2019. And this gives Boeing a chance to get back in the game and sell more aircraft. And, I hope the FAA is doing their proper job and that they are not also as corrupt as the rest of the government. But obviously, if they put that back in the air and there's another crash, that will be the end of that aircraft. If you're an aviation buff, you might look at how just one crash basically ended the L-1011. And same thing with the DC-10 when they got that one on film. But they're basically, the FAA is saying it's safe to allow the planes back in the air. The European Aviation Safety Agency has also indicated that it will approve the aircraft soon. Apparently, the squad is pushing Joe Biden to cancel student debt. And I'm sure there is a large segment of our population would love to see that debt canceled. In fact, probably most of us would like to see all debt canceled. Not going to happen. Not going to have a jubilee, but they're now talking about canceling the student debt. Unfortunately, these four congresswomen are not acting out of any kind of altruistic purposes. Apparently, they themselves are deep in debt for student loans here. And apparently, 59 members of Congress collectively owe $2.4 million in student loans. Both Ocasio-Cortez and Ilhan Omar owe between $15,000 and $50,000 in student loans. Tlaib, I always have trouble pronouncing that, owes between $50,000 and $100,000 in law school loans. So they're acting more out of self-interest than anything else there. Now, here's an interesting little story. Apparently, 5 Amazon employees in Madrid. We got to take another break for commercials. All right, we'll finish this story when we come up on the backside of these commercials. Welcome back to our show here, and finishing up on this little story. Apparently, over in Madrid, at an Amazon warehouse, 5 employees have been arrested for stealing over $500,000 worth of iPhone 12 and iPhone 12 Pro models. And apparently they did this by putting iPhones into various packages and removing them at the last minute. And apparently, after the weight differences were detected, Amazon installed hidden cameras to investigate the issue. All righty, now then. Apparently, over at UCLA, there's a professor of law and a Mexican-American affirmative action activist, if you will, Laura Gomez, and basically saying that the United States needs to allow more Latino immigration in reparations for past racism. And, they're just going to open the borders is what they're going to do. And we already have, millions of legal American citizens. Even the current Hispanics who are here in this country don't want open borders because it's more competition for the few jobs that are open. That's the biggest problem we face, with this economy. That there are not enough jobs to support this population. Okay, and let's see. This is a little bit of health news here. Down in Bolivia, scientists are alarmed over what is described as an Ebola-like virus, and it is apparently transmissible from human to human, and it has a 60% lethality rate. Now, it appears to have originated in rats. It's called the Chaper virus. It first emerged in 2004 from the Bolivian province where it gets its name. But research is now showing how deadly the disease it is and how it could spread from patient zero. Apparently, there was an outbreak in 2019. And, it comes from a different viral family than Ebola, but it does cause hemorrhagic fever, which does cause life-threatening organ failure and bleeding. It's a nasty, nasty way to go here. Apparently, we had a near miss. The little asteroid about 10 meters in diameter, and it passed just 240 miles from the Earth's surface and passed obviously well inside the orbit of the moon and inside the orbit of some man-made satellites. And they missed it until it had already passed and was headed back out into space. And it sort of underscores that all of this ballyhoo about detecting Earth-approaching objects, they do miss them. They missed that big one that came down over Russia a couple years ago. And the other question is, what happens when we detect one coming in that's going to hit? We really can't do anything about it. And finally, everybody's applauding SpaceX for the Crew Dragon's taking of Baby Yoda up to the International Space Station. But apparently they had some problems with their third static test fire of the Starship SN8 prototype engine. Apparently there was a leak. All right, we're going to take a break for station identification. We're going to open the phone lines, and we'll be back with hour two. Welcome back to our show here, hour number two, and the phone lines are open. Area code 512-248-8252. And basically, we're going to start with Doreen in British Columbia. Hello, Doreen. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Oh, hi, Mike. Good to see you. I just got some information for everybody that the Supreme Court has ruled in favor forfeit in 1878 in favor for all the states for the forfeit the election. That's just got through. That kind of information has just come through.
Okay.
And I would like to mention the person, I think it's Mark, who is concerned about Trump with the vaccines and what he's saying. This is what I got information that he's doing. He's leading them down the garden path because he knows they haven't followed protocol with the vaccines, and he's going to get to the point where he's going to expose them on that, and he's going to get the one of the executives of the pharmaceutical company sold 62% of his stock last couple of days ago, and why would he do that? So there's a game being played there. So I don't think Trump is all in favor of mandatory vaccines. He's not. So,
okay. Can we go back to the Supreme Court?
The Supreme Court has ruled in favor of all 50 states to forfeit the election.
I cannot confirm that at all. I mean, it's one of those too good to be true things.
I know. That's why I was when I heard it, I thought, oh, but it is true. And I got the information that this type of information would come out before the TV news would get it, but it has been. It's good information.
I'm going to have to wait for some confirmation there because I wasn't even aware that Trump's lawyers had gotten their case to the Supreme Court yet. Maybe they took something on expedited basis, but I can find absolutely nothing to confirm that story. So we'll have to wait and see.
Who is the lawyer for the Trump? Giuliani. They mentioned his name.
Yes. Giuliani.
When the information comes in. Anyway, that's what I heard, and I was so happy that I heard that. And Trump is a great man. He's he likes he's for the children. He's saving all those children, and people don't understand that. And he's there for America. He's going to make it a better place. He's going to switch from maritime law to common law. It's like when two people live together, when they call it living in common law, it's because they don't have a contract. All these, the police and everything, they're all contracted corporations. And under common law, what Trump is going to bring in, that will not happen. They'll all have new jobs, and they've been arresting a lot of people. And some information I got is the person gets the information from a pilot that's been flying into Gitmo prison there, and taking a lot of people in. He doesn't know who they are. He just flies them in, but he doesn't bring them back. And Trump has been arresting lots of people. And it's this, when this is all through.
To put it politely, this is the first I've heard of it.
Yeah, but I've heard it, the information. I don't know if you'd like me to say it, but it's on Charlie Ward. He's been saying it, and he's in contact with all these people because he's the guy that used to move money around, and he knows quite a few things. But I just heard it like about an hour ago that the Supreme Court has ruled for a forfeit for the election for all 50 states. Anyway,
right,
Mike, I'll let you go because I know you've got a lot of people, but he's not with the vaccines, and I can't remember the man's name, but he sold 62% of the pharmaceutical vaccine company a few days ago, and he wouldn't do that. There's something going on there. Okay, Mike, I'm happy, and
well, I'm happy you're happy.
Yeah, so, and good luck for you and Claire. I really enjoy your show.
All right. Well, thank you very much there. And I'm going to switch over to Layla in Canada. Hello, Layla. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yes, Mike. I'd like to make this brief. I want to start with an apology. When I was listening to your show yesterday, I was absolutely squirming as I listened to, I think it was 3 callers, one in particular, who heaped unjustified abuse on you. And I am so sorry because I think I may have set the trend. I'm sure there have been other callers before me who challenged you for allowing other callers to insult them. But I was very harsh with you about a call by Nathan. And Nathan is entitled to his opinion. What set me off with regard to what Nathan said was when he said something about, it sounded as though he wanted to vaporize me off the planet, out of the galaxy. And it just reminded me of the Zionist tactic.
I said anything like that. You're one of our better callers. I get a lot of
not you.
I get a lot of email about you.
It wasn't you. It was Nathan. And he was, and those were his words, get off the planet, get out of the galaxy, that kind of thing. And that just reminded me of Zionist tactics and their false claims about, ovens that vaporize 6 million bodies. You can't bury those. They must have been vaporized. And that just set me off and just outraged me. And I apologize deeply that I took it out on you. You were humoring him. I realize now you were probably right in doing so because it shows the absurdity of the people who take that approach. So to those callers who may want to blame you for what other callers say, please, I plead with you, people like me who are watching the show feel really uncomfortable when Mike is verbally assaulted and is too much of a gentleman to cut them off. Please recognize what a difficult position Mike is in. People call in and he can't verify much of what they're saying. Mike respects their freedom of speech, and that should not be a license to attack other callers. Basically, we're all on the same side, or most of us who call in. And the one thing that the enemy wants us to do is for them to be able to sit back and watch us destroy one another. Unity at this time among those who recognize the importance of keeping the republic intact and living up to that special Constitution that is an inspiration for all of us. Please do not forget where we're coming from. And as for my criticism of Trump, it was based basically on two things: that he had failed to take action against those who destroyed the credibility of the 2016 election, but also that he had placed tariffs and then withdrew them. And that was, of course, done because of the pressure on him. And I do recall that Trump did want to prevent an economic lockdown, because I remember at the same time I was also arguing for the same thing. And I said that if people do not have jobs and cannot pay for housing and cannot pay for food or medical care, they are far more likely to die than from some vague disease that is out there. So Trump did initially oppose an economic lockdown, not only on the type of businesses that he manages, but on the entire economy for everybody. So that is unfair to say that he was in favor, that he's the one who has caused the lockdowns. He had to do it. And he has been under pressure and has been restricted from doing the things that, as the executive of the country, he had every right to do. So let's lay off just attacking one another and attacking perhaps our best hope for surviving the crisis that we're now in. And again, Mike, thank you for all that you do, and please accept my apology. And to others, don't use that tactic. We're only serving the enemy's interests. So take care. Thank you for being where you are, you and Claire, and just be well.
Well, thank you very much here, and no apology is necessary. You don't work in this industry without developing a very thick hide, and but I do appreciate the very kind words, and you are definitely one of our better callers. I get a lot of email from people who are just saying we need more Layla, and they admire your scope of knowledge about all things Middle East. So thank you very much for the phone call, and thank you very much for the kind words. And we're going to switch over to Tom in Florida. Hello, Tom. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yes. Good day, Michael. Aloha. Yeah, good day to you. Michael, what's on my mind is there's a few things on my mind, but to your first call, I'm happy that she's happy, and I hope we all can stay happy. That's the main thing. We're all happy.
Can't we all just get along?
Wonderful. Right. We're on a beautiful, happy holiday season, and Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Although every other holiday that you want to call it. Whatever.
No, I call it Christmas.
Mike,
we're going to have a Christmas tree.
Christmas. There you go. Right
Around here in Santa Claus, if you don't have a Christmas tree, they look at you with a great deal of suspicion.
Correct. I can imagine. Sure. Anyway, Mike, one reason I called, I listened to your show yesterday. I didn't get to call him, but I heard Peter, and Peter made another excellent call. Very, very good call. Excellent, whatever you want to call it. He was talking about what's going on in Africa. And Peter's absolutely right. And by the way, Mike, was it Professor Livingston or Dr. Livingston?
Dr. Livingston.
Dr. Livingston, that's correct. So Dr. Livingston, when he went in there in the deepest part of Africa, they didn't even know what a wheel was, let alone buildings and any other kind of modern technology that Europe had at the time. So when they first saw the wheel, it was like a shock to them. And they could roll something instead of having to carry it on their head or whatever. But yeah, Mike, I didn't call about that really. I was to get that, Peter, right on the money on that one yesterday. They are every damn day on the media, Mike. It's racist, Whitey's racist. I am so fed up with it. I can't take anymore. And the commercials are all disgraceful. Even these insurance commercials. I mean, it's disgusting what they're getting away with. And we know who's doing that. But Mike, what I really want to talk about is let's go to the real fact about Trump. What's going on? Why this happened to him? Yeah, as you know, Mike, there was two MS-13 gang members were they're sponsoring these two guys that went around and got all these homeless bums in L.A. to vote 8,000 voters. You saw that, Mike?
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay, you got 8,000 homeless people living on streets that are voting. They probably paid them whatever they paid them, $200-300 to vote. And I told your show 2 years ago, Mike, over 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, maybe it's 3 years ago. I had told your show when Donald Trump did not arrest that mayor in Oakland, California for giving them a heads up that the feds were coming in to arrest them. That's when Donald Trump should have cleaned up the voting of this country right then and there. Because
yes, he should have.
These illegals are voting by millions. I told you years ago, Mike, if Donald Trump doesn't arrest these mayors, these governors of these sanctuary states, that this was going to happen. I foretold this years ago, and you can archive it back that I was telling the truth about this. I knew that if Trump did not start arresting these mayors and these governors for allowing sanctuary cities, this nonsense, these nincompoops will get away with this nonsense. And exactly what I told you has happened. By him not arresting that mayor in Oakland and having the feds go in there and get her and arrest her, put her in handcuffs, for she was given a tip-off that the feds were coming in to get all these illegal aliens out of California. Now, Michael, I want you to talk for the next minute or next caller. I want you to tell me how the land of Ronald Reagan, Richard Nixon, the land of milk and honey, has got 9 million illegal aliens in there, and nobody's done anything. And it's blue, so they're blue in the face. If you were in water that's 200 degrees under Fahrenheit, that's how blue you'd turn. And to a lot of these blue state guys that they call in and they bash me, Mike. The bottom line is, and they're all great callers. Like Layla said, we all need to have our opinions, but you need to get along. But these guys understand their states are going to stay blue for another 50 to 100 years unless they go out and they do protest. And they do say that we're being overtaken by communism and socialism. That's exactly what's happening in Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey. It's nothing but social communism that's taking over these blue state guys that wish they had a voice to say something. That's why here in Florida, everybody's waking up to this communism takeover. They don't want it here, Mike. We don't want socialism. We don't want communism. And as far as that AOC, she should go, you know what? I don't even want to tell you what that broad should do. You know what? I don't want to get into that bartender. She must have been drunk half the time she was at the bar anyway. I don't know what she was all about. But, how she thinks she's Mr. Brilliant, being a congresswoman, Mike, and, she's nothing but a total nincompoop. She doesn't know nothing about history. Most of these kids nowadays don't know nothing about history, Mike. They don't even know how to write their name in person.
That's a big problem.
It's the biggest problem that we're facing. AOC wants them to, what AOC's trying to do? She wants to get all these young 18-year-old, 19, 20-year-olds to vote in the next election for Camilla because AOC's not stupid. It's all going to be about these young voters coming up. And if white America does not grab a hold of their youth and tell them, hey, listen, you have got to teach these kids history and about their greatness of their country, we're going to lose this country, Mike, forever. And I know you know that. You've been saying it for years. But I want you to hit on the point, Mike, of you got two guys, two Hispanics in L.A. getting 8,000 votes, 8,000 voters to vote for the Democrat. So he was a supporter of MS-13. You saw the article, Mike, right?
Yeah, I know. I posted it. What really happened? I mean, those two got arrested, but how many more were there? That got away with it. And that's why every time the corporate media says, well, yes, there was fraud, but not enough to change the outcome, it's a completely unsupportable statement. Because once you've found some election fraud, you can't say that you found it all. And that is just absolutely the truth. Especially when everybody's trying so hard not to look.
Well, these people need to be arrested with severe penalties, Mike. They should do 20 years in jail. 20 years. They should do a 20-year sentence, both of these guys, and whatever ones else were doing it. I mean, that's another thing that Trump dropped the ball on. He should have made sure these people do severe penalties. Like when you tear down a monument of our country, you're going to do 15 years in the slammer. That's a slap in the multiple millions of men and women's face, Mike.
Yes.
And the men who went on the battlefield, even the Confederate men who fought, they turned down Confederate monuments. Well, you know what? Their Confederate people wanted their monuments. Those monuments were built by Confederates, not just Yankees.
Now they want to go after George Washington and Thomas Jefferson.
Well, they're already doing that with the high schools, Mike. They're taking the names away from the high schools. George Washington's a racist. We're not going to call no more high schools Washington or pretty soon Lincoln or Ulysses S. Grant. I mean, it's unbelievable what's happened here because white males have turned on each other North and South, Northern men and Southern men have turned on each other for a bunch of false premise. A false premise is what this is, Mike. It's disgusting and disgraceful. And you know what? We've got to stop it. We have absolutely got to stop it. And I'll tell you what, Mike, if bumbling Biden goes in there and tries to take down that wall, or he tries to bring in all these multiple millions of Arabs and all these other people from Central America, I believe, Mike, there's going to be all a civil war. There's no question about it. And I keep hearing that.
I keep hearing that over and over again. I'd really like that not to happen, but it does seem like it's going to happen. Yeah.
If Biden tries to pull that with the immigration, Mike, I tell you, our country's an all-out civil war. That's my opinion. I mean, I'm sure you feel the same way. I'm sure. You know, and
I fear that outcome. Yes.
And Mike, I tell you, when they try to tax the bullets, when they try to make the bullets go way higher, watch what happens then. Oh my goodness! Then you're going to really see the tyranny. Then you're going to see liberty stand up. You're going to finally see liberty. The liberty is going to be meted out big time in this country, Mike. Liberty is going to be meted out if these bumbling buffooneries of these Democrats get away with their nincompoop nonsense. That's all I can say, Mike. And thank you for taking my call. And yeah, Mike, like I said, you know, we live in the greatest country on earth, and now a lot of people, they need to go to some of these third world countries to really get a rude awakening. They'll get a rude awakening. Believe me, their eyes will pop wide open. Saying,
okay,
man.
Tom, I got to let you go, Tom. Got to let you go. Got to take a break for commercials. We'll be back with more phone calls after these few words. And welcome back to our show here. We're going to go right back to the phones here to Mark in North Carolina. Hello, Mark. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
Yeah, how you doing, Mike? The elections and COVID. Boy, it's tied in. All right. This whole creep Biden talk about locking down the country. I don't think he'll get away with it if he does, God forbid, get in. I think.
Okay, Mark, can you put the microphone a little closer to your mouth? Yeah, we're having trouble hearing you.
Sound any better now?
Yes, it's better. Thank you.
Okay. This Million MAGA March in Washington, this was 1 million people. I've watched it on TV. I would have gone, but I had nobody to watch the dogs. And, you know, because of this stupid COVID, they were locking that, you know, you can't put dogs in a kennel. You can't put them in the vet won't do it, you know. And I just couldn't, I knew the crowds were going to be big, so I didn't want these two dogs that close, you know. I mean, not that I'm worried about social distancing, but somebody might have done something and triggered them off, so I didn't want to take that kind of chance, you know what I mean? Well, you know, they would have freaked out being a big city anyway because they're used to living here and all that. But anyway, so, but I was watching on TV, and I was watching Alex Jones have his films. There was easily 1 million people there. And I saw something good today in Atlanta, Georgia. Alex is down there in Atlanta now, and he was together with 2 other alternate media types who have already been pretty much kicked off the YouTube, Nick Fuentes and Ali Alexander. And this is good because these guys are, you know, they have some different views. Nick Fuentes has been accused of being a white supremacist already and an anti-Semite and all this other nonsense, which he's not. But, you know, Ali Alexander is black, and Alex Jones has also been accused of being a Zionist. And, you know, I don't really think he is. I think he may have some sympathy towards that, but he's not, you know, he's not totally, he'll take on the ADL and other garbage organizations like that. So I was very happy to see those 3 together. They were really, they're together for a while. They were really, the crowd seemed really riled up there, and I understand they expect a huge crowd of thousands of people on Saturday. They're trying to make it clear to the Georgia legislature, you better do what's right. You know, this is a theft, Mike. This is caused by, again, very much by the stupid lockdown. And I disagree with Layla. Trump should have known. He should not have locked the country down in the first place. We certainly shouldn't have kept it locked down. He should have lifted the lockdown.
Yeah, but don't forget that Trump was being fed bad information by his own people.
Yeah, I know.
That's a big part of how they controlled Donald Trump is they controlled what information was getting through to him.
Yeah, but he certainly could have gotten rid of Fauci since then, and he could have unlocked the country. All he has to do right now is lift the emergency orders, and these governors, these creeps, couldn't do what they're doing in the various states like Cuomo and Whitner and these other people now. They couldn't do it. They would be prevented. But he still is not unlocking the country, which he definitely should do. I don't trust the vaccine. I would not take any of these vaccines. Mm-hmm. These are RNA vaccines. These are very dangerous.
Yes.
Very unpredictable.
RNAs have a high mutation rate.
Yeah. Somebody would have to be crazy to take these things. So, it's very bad news. But the hope is that people are wising up. They are rebelling, not only in the United States, Germany, Great Britain, Hungary, what other country? There was, I think, Portugal.
Yeah.
Spain, people are rising up. We will not let these globalist Nazis take over, like, what's that guy's name? Klaus Schwab. We will not let them have their way. I have to let Bill Gates have their way. And I still say this. As far as the election goes, I don't know what that lady was saying before about the Supreme Court, that they made some kind of ruling. What did she say? What kind of ruling did she say? Because I was...
Well, she said that the Supreme Court had ruled that the election was forfeit in all 50 states, which doesn't really make any sense. Somebody sent me a link to the website that I'm going to be checking out over the next commercial break, and I think our next caller also wants to talk about the same subject.
Well, I do believe the Supreme Court is probably going to intervene. That's because of the great Justice Alito. And I think he's going to push. I know that...
he's already said he will.
I know that Judge Roberts, I don't think wants to take it to the Supreme Court, but I think they will bend Roberts' arm, and it will be brought into the... I believe it will be brought into the Supreme Court. And I also believe this. All the information you're gathering, the Kraken and all that, what's saying, I think, as a last resort, I do not believe Donald Trump is going to give up the reins to these traitors. I believe at some point he will declare a martial law if he has to.
I think it would be a hideous mistake if he did. I think it would be a terrible mistake. But we'll see. Time to solve that mystery. Anyway, Mark, I got to let you go. Got to take another break for commercials, and we will be right back. Welcome back to our show here. We're going to go back to the phones here. We lost Dan in Texas, who I think wanted to talk about the Supreme Court. So let's go to Jim in New York. Hello, Jim. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today? Jim, are you there? Okay, looks like we lost Jim. So let's go to Steve in West Virginia. Hello, Steve. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, hi, Mike. I got two things for you. First, I want to tell you we went to the march on Saturday, and I noticed that Mark from North Carolina said he thought there might be 1 million there. I would say there was easily 250,000, maybe 400,000 at the most.
200,000 is the number I heard, but that's still a very impressive amount right there, and it has to be sending a message.
Yeah, Mike, let me tell you a few things. Okay, first of all, we saw Alex Jones twice, and both times he had so many people around him, we couldn't even get close to him. Alex Jones was almost like he was Donald Trump. He had so many people. Even if the cops wanted to arrest him, they couldn't. He had I don't know if they were bodyguards or what they were, but he had so many people around him, Mike. You couldn't even get close to him. We saw other people. We saw Jason Goodman on the other side when we were walking, and we couldn't get all the way up to the Supreme Court. And we met people from everywhere. There were so many Chinese people there for Trump, Vietnamese and Chinese people. And we met people from the San Francisco Bay Area. We even met somebody from Alaska, Mike. Somebody from Alaska came down to that rally, a guy and his wife. We met people from Arizona, a lot of the western states. It really surprised me. Trump has a lot of black supporters. I mean, it was unbelievable. I will tell you, though, we got out of there by 3:30 because we noticed there was a lot of riffraff starting to come in as it was, as it was getting darker. And I would recommend to any of your people, if you ever go into D.C., especially now, you don't want to stay there at night because, like I say, there's a lot of derelicts walking around, and you know, you don't know what's going to happen. It's okay in the daytime, but you don't want to go in there at night. Now, Mike, I want to point out one other thing, and I'll let you get to your other callers.
Okay.
Today, I heard that, you know, this story that's been floating around that the Army went in and tried to seize the servers from Seidel. You heard about that, right?
Yeah, but Skeidel has denied that it happened.
Okay. Well, what I heard today is that the Army went in. They didn't go to Seidel because there's you know, they can't go into a sovereign business in Germany. What they did is they went into, and this is according to Tom Luongo, they went into, they raided the CIA's, some kind of CIA facility, and they seized the servers. Now, I don't know how true it is, but Tom Luongo, he's a pretty, I mean, he doesn't, you know, deal in fairy tales or anything. So this is what's being said, that they actually raided the CIA and took the servers away from the CIA. So how true that is, I do not know.
Well, that would almost make more sense than raiding Skeidel or Skittle, however you pronounce that, again, because of the sovereignty issue. Because if they'd raided a German company, we would be hearing complaints about it from the German government.
True, very true. But I think what's happened is the Germans, some German people saw something happening, and they put out tweets in German, and I don't think people really understood what was going on. But from what Tom Luongo is saying, is that he believes that the CIA facility was raided by the U.S. Army. Whether that's true or not, I do not know. But like I say, I just wanted to tell you that and once again, that march was awesome. So everybody was nice too, Mike. I didn't meet any, you know, jerks or, you know, my girlfriend had a good time. I mean, it was a good march. It was unbelievable.
Okay, well, it sounds like you had a good time. I wish I'd had the means to be able to go up there, although, you know, I still can't do a lot of walking for medical reasons, but my heart and enthusiasm was certainly with the marches up there in Washington, D.C. Okay, Steve, we're going to let you go. The phone lines are open now if you want to call on in. Area code 512-248-8252, and we're going to go to Lauren in Ohio. Hello, Lauren. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike, I'm in Ohio, and DeWine put his little edict down. We're supposed to stay locked up in our houses from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. Can COVID tell time? I'm driving in my car in the country down a back road by myself. I'm supposed to stay. I'm telling you what, people, this my fault, my fix. We allowed these, I want to swear, we allowed these fools to do what they're doing. It only happens with our consent. The answer is to get up off of your behinds and start living the way a man is supposed to live, on his feet, not his knees. You don't listen to them tell you how to educate your child. You don't listen to them tell you how to make your kid take vaccines. You don't listen to them tell you, you know, to eat this crappy food. This is about your personal responsibility to maintain your unit in good shape, and that means your head. That means you fill in your head with knowledge. Turn off that idiot box. They call it a boob tube for a reason. TV programming. They keep saying, oh, Biden's the president, Biden's the president. They want you to ignore your five senses. Who can put 1 million people, and there were 1 million people according to the park police, who can put 1 million people, boots on the ground in Washington with no organization in 5 days? Who can pull 50,000 people in to come see him speak in a day's notice? Joe Biden couldn't get a dozen people with LeBron James in Akron, his hometown. Excuse me, that was Hillary Clinton. The same thing with Joe Biden. Nobody's coming out. Now you're going to tell me that you believe that this neck and neck, oh, it's close. No, it's not. And they're counting on our just abject stupidity to not respect what you know to be true, even if you're a Democrat. You know darn well that Joe Biden is not the largest vote-getting president in the history of this country. You know it's not true. But
yes,
you want
I do.
what you want, don't you? Yeah, you want those free. Oh, I'm talking to the Democrats, and I'm talking to the patriots too. When people say they're participating, are you homeschooling your children? Are you teaching them real truth? If you're handing them over to the school system, and I don't care if it's public, private, look at deliberatedumbingdown.com, Charlotte Iserby. You have to understand they've been lying to us for generations. How do you think we got to a point where we're willing to let them tell us to stay home at Thanksgiving? All the middle of the night, everybody runs to the store Friday night, and you're standing in line at 3 a.m. All that's over. If they don't make their companies work at this Christmas rush, they go out of business. This is where people make it happen every year. And that's what I'm saying. This only works with our participation. When they have you sign a vaccine consent form, it's so they're not held responsible when they kill or damage your child. But you participated because you said it was okay. You were arrogant, you were ignorant, and you were something. I call this the new American ace. Arrogant, ignorant, and selfish. You don't know what's in that needle. Neither does your doctor, but you're going to let him put it in your baby because you're too lazy to look at what's in the vaccine. You just want to trust people. You want to trust the FDA to take care of your health, to provide drugs. My dad got killed. He died from the diabetes drug he was on. And what they pay? $3,000. So that's what a life is worth, huh? And that's what I mean. This is happening because we're allowing it. I want people to start saying no. Keep your money in your pocket. If you don't owe taxes, don't pay them. Hisadvocates.org, Weiss Paris, WEISS Paris.com. He does this through the IRS and the Social Security, through the tax court. He's never lost. There's 2 cases that the people didn't win because you file your own stuff. All you're doing is declaring who and what you are. We are children of the living God. They are our maids and butlers. They don't tell me to stay in the house. I will be out in the street tonight. And by the way, and I'm boycotting Menards. I was in there. They didn't want to serve me because I didn't have a mask on. I said, there's nobody there's nobody there. I'm standing in this great big store with me, the manager, and the girl checking me out. And he said, well, that's the rule. I said, well, you're discriminating. He said, oh, it's not discriminating because you can shop online. Remember Brown versus Board of Education?
Yes.
Separate but equal? No, you're not doctors. You haven't had, given me a checkup. You don't get to have mass medical interventions. This is not okay. So I am boycotting Menards. We turned Walmart around. They don't say a word to me if I'm even in there. I don't even like Walmart, but
we noticed last time we went to Walmart, a lot of people were not wearing the masks here, and I can hear your anger and your frustration. Before we continue on your phone call, I got a message here from Mike in the control room. When we're done with the call, do not hang up because Mike in our control room wants to talk to you. Okay?
Excellent. Yeah.
All right, fantastic. Yeah. So please pick up your rant again.
Well, no, I'm just making the point that we have all the power. If we don't do what they say, what are they going to do about it? Number one. Number two, the first commandment, and even if you're not a Christian, have no other gods before me. There's truth. And if you look at what's happening, it's all happening because we don't respect the truth. We don't respect each other. If I'm willing to rob my neighbor so that I can have what I want, without having work to produce the fruit. If a man doesn't work, nor shall he eat. There's math there. You actually have to have energy going out and a real product coming back. What they're doing is printing money. There's no asset on the other side, and it's a lie. So what I'm saying is if we would respect each other, I'm not going to rob you to make my way. And if we respect ourselves, value ourselves, my mind's perfectly good enough to determine whether or not I want to take a vaccine or how I want to educate my children or what I want to do for a living or what I want to eat. But they want to bring in the Chinese system here. You're going to be a coal miner because you're short. You're going to be a farmer because you're brown. I mean, whatever. Who are these people and why are we obeying them? And I'm telling you, get your children out of those schools, start taking responsibility for your own lives, and stop doing what they tell you. If we could just do those things, we don't have to wait for the Supreme Court to rule. And I wouldn't care what the Supreme Court did rule. Supreme Court ruled black people were not people. They were slaves. So I don't care what they say. The truth doesn't change because a bunch of men vote. And that's why I'm saying we used to be solid in this country on facts and truth. Facts over feelings. Now we're all mush. Just it feels so good to wear a COVID power, but it's not going to come from, and I do appreciate the marches and everything like that. I pitch in for that kind of stuff because I think it's important. But the real action comes personally in our lives every day. Every day. And that's where it's got to start and end. And if we just do that, I mean, think about it. If we weren't mass brainwashing the kids, in 6 months, they'd actually know where places on the planet are. I homeschool. My kids know every country, every continent, every body of water, what's north, south, east, west of every, you see what I mean? So if we're going to kill people, shouldn't you at least know where it is on the map? Shouldn't you even know something about the people that you're killing? I mean, it's just crazy. Global warming. Are you kidding me? We're carbon-based life form. To have no carbon means you're all dead. You know, evolution. Really? DNA is a blueprint. If it was evolution, why are there still 8? You see, it's just.
They were the smart ones.
Well, that's what I mean. We allow this to happen, and we can stop at any time. And I just want people to feel their power, stop doing what they tell you, obey God in terms of don't steal, don't covet, don't murder people. I mean, you know, let's respect each other. And then boycott big business. Let's start working with each other. I like, you know, buying stuff, RBN, Power Hour, Alex Jones. Let's support each other like the Amish, like the, you know, like people that succeed do. Take our money from them. You only need to nibble a little away from them because they've got such large overhead. So if you take 2 or 3% of their business, you can hurt them. So I want people to start taking action. I really, it bothers me so much to have people just think they can vote once every 4 years and they've done their part. No, it's every day. And you better get busy because what they've got planned for you, what's in these vaccines, I'm an ex-drug rep, I'm a naturopathic doctor now, and I am here to tell you what they've got for that needle. I keep asking people to read the paper Mycoplasma, the linking pathogen in neurosystemic diseases by Professor Don Scott. It's all right in there. So they're doing it on purpose. They're not going to stop. What you tolerate will continue. So I'll leave you alone. There's other people that would like to talk, but I just want people to feel their power. Stop waiting for some group collective or some other. It's you every day and start doing your job. Let's get back to being American.
All right. It sounds really good. All right, Lauren, stay on the line. Don't hang up because Mike in the control room wants to talk to you a little bit. And meanwhile, I'm going to, first of all, the phone lines are open right now, 512-248-8252. And I got an interesting little email here that I think fits in right here. Hey there, Mike, just a question and comment. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I'd love to know if I am. But from what I can remember from American history, I don't think there has ever been a time in our history where the government, either state or federal, has ever forced its civilian population to wear a specific item of clothing until now, talking about the face masks. Have there been other instances, and this COVID crud is the biggest scamdemic pulled on the American people since 9/11. Everyone claims that they know the media lies, they know government organizations lie, but as soon as the CDC and the media come out saying all these people are infected and all these people are dying, then suddenly the people start believing them. It's like the media and government spend all their time lying to us, but then magically overnight they're suddenly telling the truth, and people just magically get scared and take them at their word like they were suddenly being honest. It's absolutely ridiculous. And yes, it really does reach an apex of ridiculousness. And Lauren made an interesting point of view about the 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. curfew. COVID doesn't know how to tell time. You know, COVID doesn't have an iWatch. It's just, doing what it does all the time here. And it's about as silly as that new demand, that new dictum down in Pennsylvania, where you have to wear your face mask in your house. I mean, it really is reaching extremely ridiculous levels. All righty. Well, right now the phone lines are empty, so I'm going to get on back here to talk about a little bit of news for the rest of our show. In fact, we're coming up on our last commercial break here, and I got some science stuff to share. Well, actually, we got a caller waiting on the line I'm going to get to after these words from our sponsors. Welcome back to our show here, the last segment on this Hump Day show here, and we're going to go right back to the phones. James in Vancouver. James, welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
Yes, yes. I have to agree with is it Lauren from Ohio? That's exactly what we need to do. We have to start developing societies within this society where we feel safe and we can be productive. And it reminds me of novels like Fahrenheit 451.
Yes.
Where in the end people had to fend for themselves, and they had to rely on each other in new ways, because we cannot trust our doctors, we cannot trust our politicians, we cannot trust all of those things that once we could trust, and now we have to really become militant in a way, without being militant in the military sense. But we can't be taking vaccines. We can't be doing that kind of thing. We have to look out for ourselves.
Yes, we do. Unfortunately, we have to get back to that, patriot pioneering spirit that actually got this country launched.
Exactly.
Yep.
The American way, the westward expansion, people relying on each other, families helping families, that kind of thing. And that demonstration in Washington is just the beginning. They can get 1 million people that time. They'll get 1 million people the next time. They get 1 million people whenever they need to. But we can take this government and we can take all this back. All we have to do is keep pushing.
Well, I think best course of action is not so much push on them, because they'll push back, is to just sort of ignore and bypass them. Don't watch ABC News, don't watch NBC News, don't watch CNN, don't watch NPR. We saw this last election season how much they lie and propagandize us, and people are probably correct when they say they're doing exactly the same regarding this COVID pandemic. And as Lauren pointed out, some of the COVID restrictions are completely unscientific and ridiculous, like a 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. curfew or wearing a mask in your home. It's just control for the sake of control.
We're having that curfew up here now. It just started 7 days ago, and it's totally ridiculous.
Well, it's to get people used to the idea of the curfew.
Well, yeah, that's the idea, and they said it was for 2 weeks, but it won't be. They're going to try push it. You see, they're just going to try. Yes. So this is anyway. All the best to you, and I enjoy your program. And these callers, some of them are fantastic. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for the call here. We're going to let you go. We're almost at the end of the show. I'm going to try and fit in a news story. Apparently, wokists are out there saying that we should stop the exploration of space because we're basically exporting our colonial practices out into the universe. Now, absent warp drive, I don't think that's a reality. But I mean, it does signal that under a Biden administration, that we're going to see NASA's budget cut, and all the wonderful accomplishments that we've seen in space over the last couple of years will unfortunately come to an end because they want the money for the free stuff. No problem that all those scientists and engineers are going to lose their jobs. Okay, there's the music. Stay tuned for John Stadmiller. I'm sure he's got a lot of interesting things to share with you. Please spread the word of Republic Broadcasting and whatreallyhappened.com. Please donate. Apparently, Farron Schoaf is filling in for John Stadmiller. I just got that update here, and we'll be back tomorrow. Have a good evening. Aloha, America.